cosmetics have been around in some form since 200 BC, which, if you think about it, is really a long time ago. Early man, you could argue, was using some form of cosmetic application the day he decided to wander out from his cave and slather his short, furry little body with dung and mud. The ancient Egyptians also liked makeup. We learned that from watching Elizabeth Taylor. The idea of complexion-altering foundation comes into play in the Western world around 200 BC. The ancient Greeks and Romans would make pastes of animal fat and talc and lead, actually, and cover their olivey complexions to make themselves look more pale than they actually were. A lot of people actually died of lead poisoning back then, all for the sake of looking pale. The reason behind that, by the way, was if you were pale, it meant that you weren't outside working, and so fair skin meant well off. It's a trend that caught on for several hundred years, and fat actually also helped too. Pale and fat seemed to be the call of the day, which, if you ask me, only proves that what we find most desirable is what is the most difficult to attain. For example, pick up a fashion magazine and you see the models in there and you don't feel like they're human. Realize that they're not. Most of us don't actually look like that, and in fact most of the models, thanks to Photoshop, don't actually look like that either. The only difference between us now and us then, and how we look at the world, is that so many of us are pale and fat now that it's just not fashionable anymore. Once you realize that, embrace it, and stop feeling bad about yourself. I think the world would be a much better place. I guarantee that if we all woke up one day and we looked like Scarlett Johansson, Chaz Bono would probably be on the cover of Vogue, and we'd all be wanting to do him. But I was talking about foundation, so I think I'm getting sidetracked. When you're shopping for foundation, one of the things that you need to keep in mind is that there are many different types of foundation. They will all do different things. There are oil-based. These are sort of a throwback to the animal fat and lead that I was talking about earlier. Now they're typically made of pigments and mineral oil, and they usually come in a stick or in a cake-style pan. These are usually theatrical makeup type things, though, so they're not readily found in drugstores or department stores, but they do exist. Probably the most common kind of foundation that you're going to find is water-based foundations. This is just about any liquid that you see, just about any cream that you see. Anything that's emollient nowadays is typically water-based. Powder foundation, and that includes pressed in a compact that you just apply, or you could include mineral makeup in this category as well. Mineral makeup and pressed compact type foundations, I think, are something that have caught on in popularity in large part due to their ease of use and fast application method. Mineral makeup is also something that's become a person with very sensitive skin's best friend. There are also several different hybrid types of foundation, though. There's not just those three categories. You can get hybrid blends of water and silicone. Those are very common. There are some silicone-based foundations, but they aren't as common. There's cream to powder finish foundations, which go on like a cream, dry to a powder. Those are really popular in the 90s, but some companies still make them. Some foundations have a high alcohol content. They're like a toner and a tint in one. Those are pretty rare, but they do exist. The most common kinds that you're going to see when you're shopping, though, are really the powder, the pressed powder, the loose powder, and a liquid, either a cream or a liquid water-based. Before starting this video, I went through and I looked at my emails and the most common questions that I get from people regarding foundation. There were two buzzwords that kept popping up: oxidizing and SPF with foundation. Oxidizing simply refers to the interaction between oxygen molecules and whatever surface they come in contact with. This is what will turn a fresh cut apple brown or a copper penny green. When you're talking about oxidizing makeup, people are talking about the nasty habit that their foundation has of turning dark or sometimes even orange on their skin. This has to do with the foundation, the air, and in large part the oils on your face. So typically people with oily skin have more problems with oxidizing than people with dry skin. It's not always the case, but that's sort of a typical rule of thumb. A lot of people with oily skin who have problems with oxidizing often find that using some sort of a barrier between their face and the foundation really helps that product to stay true to the color it is when they first put it on. A good primer works very well, a good moisturizer works very well. Often the products that work the best have silicone in them. There is no real rule of this will work 100% of the time for 100% of people though. We're all different. You just really have to try out a couple different things with a couple different products to see what's going to really suit you best. Regarding SPF and photography, products that have an SPF in them do have a tendency to bounce light back in flash photography, making you appear much more pale than you actually are. The rule is that if you're doing wedding makeup or if you know you're going to an event where you're going to be photographed, make sure that you don't have an SPF in your face. However, I don't necessarily agree with that. I can think of at least 3 off the top of 4. Off the top, there's 5. Off the top of my head, foundations that have an SPF level of at least 15 that photograph absolutely beautifully. The best thing to do is pick the foundations that you like and do some testing with flash photography with just a cheap digital camera so that you can really see, is this going to bounce light back? If you're very, very, very worried, obviously just use a foundation that doesn't have an SPF in it. Just make sure that if you know you're not going to be photographed and you are going to be out in the sun, having a product with an SPF on your skin is really a must if you're concerned about sun damage. Guys, that's it for me right now. Thanks for watching this primer to foundations. I can't say that and not laugh. Stay tuned for my how to choose the correct foundation for your skin tone and skin type video. That's going to be coming up next. And until I see you then, take care. I will see you soon, and drive safe.